This is a cooking demo on how to make a simple whole grain pasta with chicken. Begin by adding water to a saucepan and boiling it for your pasta. While you're waiting on the water to boil, you're going to begin prep work. We're going to slice mushrooms, chop baby spinach, slice yellow onion, slice Roma tomatoes, and also slice up some chicken. Moving right along with our prep work, we're going to start by slicing up our 8 ounces of mushrooms. This can be a variety of different types of mushrooms, so in this case I'm using baby portobello mushrooms, but you can also use white mushrooms or even canned mushrooms. The biggest part of this is with fresh, you're avoiding using salt, and it's also giving you the extra nutrients that may have been cooked off in the canning process. Now we are going to roughly chop our 3 cups of spinach. So spinach is a little tricky when it comes to chopping it up, and you don't have to make it super finely chopped just like the mushrooms. And the idea is we're going to use the spinach to make a sauce for our whole grain penne. Now we are going to slice an onion into half moon shapes. Onion's going to create a lot of flavor and also help us avoid using salt. Onion's a great staple when you're making other dinner dishes. Moving along, we are going to slice up a Roma tomato. So for this part of the recipe, you can use canned diced tomatoes. If you do this, you will only need 1/4 of a cup. You can also do any type of tomato if it's in your fridge, so cherry tomatoes or just regular garden tomatoes. Now we're going to do our protein group of this dinner dish. So I am using 12 ounces of raw chicken and then I'm going to cook it later. But you can also use frozen pre-cooked chicken, all depending on the type of budget and what you may have in your pantry. Here are all the ingredients that are going to go into this dish as we begin cooking. So we used a whole grain pasta penne for this recipe, and I recommend doing generic pasta because it's a lot cheaper and easier on the budget. Also, when it comes to spices like garlic and red pepper, you can also buy Kroger spices. Again, they don't break the bank, and sometimes they're only like $1 per spice. Now that everything is prepped, it's time to cook. First, you're going to heat 1 tablespoon of oil on a skillet, and once it's all heated up, you're going to add the chicken if it's raw. If you have pre-cooked chicken, you can skip this step and add it in with the other vegetables just to warm it up and unthaw it. As the chicken is cooking and also since the water is boiling, we're going to add our whole grain penne into the boiling water. We're going to boil the penne until it's al dente, or otherwise known as just being cooked well enough to eat. When you see the sides of the chicken start to turn white, it's a good idea to flip it so you avoid burning the chicken. So flip every single piece of chicken and let it cook until it starts to become the temperature it needs to be. After a couple of minutes of flipping the chicken and letting it cook, you'll see that it starts to get nice and crispy. This is when you should pull out a thermometer and check the temperature. Chicken should be at 165 degrees Fahrenheit. So once it reaches that temperature, you can take it off of the skillet and put it into a bowl and put it aside. Then place the skillet back on the stovetop and add another tablespoon of oil. Now you're going to cook your vegetables, so your onions and your mushrooms first. You're going to cook these for about 5 minutes or until you see the mushrooms start to release water. This will be noticeable as they start to turn a darker brown, and the onions are also going to turn a yellow color. Be sure as they're cooking to constantly be flipping them in the pan. This is creating a sautéing motion. This ensures that all of the vegetables are getting cooked thoroughly. Now we're going to add minced garlic. You can actually physically mince the garlic yourself, or you can use this spice jar that I have found at Kroger and also at Walmart. There's also generic versions of it too, but it's a great staple to keep in your refrigerator. Garlic adds a lot of flavor. Now we're going to add 1.5 cup of low sodium chicken broth. And we're also going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. You can add as many red pepper flakes as you can personally handle if you like spicy food. And you're going to let it simmer for about 5 minutes or until half of the water is gone. Once that is done, then you're going to add your tomatoes, and you're also going to add your spinach. Now this does look like a lot of spinach, but just watch as it slowly cooks down and starts to shrivel up a little bit. And as you stir it in, you're going to let it continue to cook until you see the spinach start to shrivel up. And as you can see, all of that flavor is getting soaked into that broth, and it's making a delicious sauce for a whole grain penne. As you're letting that sauce cook, you're going to drain off your whole grain penne noodles into a strainer, and then you're going to add them into a bigger pan to combine all of your ingredients. Also, in the meantime, make sure that you add your chicken back into your sauce, and then you throw it into the whole grain penne noodles. Mix it up, and it's all ready to go.